Let's paint some glamorous watercolour Christmas cards. Hello everyone, I'm Caroline and today I'm going to do some painting. I know I usually do craft, but I know that lots of you are looking for ideas for making your own Christmas cards. I've got some of these here. You can buy them. They're ready in the cellophane and inside they're a lovely textured paper. And you can paint on the front of these. You can even paint on some watercolour paper and then stick it to the front if you'd rather do that, or if your card's a bit flimsy, or if you've got shiny ones. Or you can take some paper and make a card. So I'm using this Arteza. It's a 5.5 by 8.5 inch, 140 pounds weight paper. With this book, when you take them out, there are perforated edges. They leave a perforated edge on the bit you take out. So I've used my cutter to cut a really tiny sliver off there, folded it in half, and I'll measure so you know exactly what size you get. And you get in 4.25 inches by 5.5 inches when you've done that. I've got a selection of painting items here. I'm not sure what I'm going to use, but I got it all ready. Always make sure you've got everything ready. It's so much easier than thinking, oh no, where is that? I like to set the palette to the right of me because I'm right-handed. If you don't do that, you will end up going over to the left and then you could possibly drip bits of paint on your painting. So always make sure it's where it's not going to bloop onto anything. It's the same if you keep it up the top there. You could bring it down and bloop, you've spoiled your painting. So first I'm going to do one of these cards, which are quite flimsy. So to make sure they don't buckle, I'm going to tape them to my desk. Not permanently. You don't have to tape this to your desk. You can just use a really heavy piece of cardstock, something like that, a board, a chopping board, whatever you've got. If you're using a chopping board, probably best not to use it for food afterwards. For this card, we are going to make a Christmas tree, but with a background on it. So I'm going to get quite a chunky brush and then put some water all down here. Now, if your card is stuck to a board, it's much easier to tilt it so that you can get a different effect. I'm not worried about getting an effect that runs down. I just want to have an even effect. And because this is a Christmas tree, I think it's going to be in the night sky. So I'm going to use this dark blue, indigo blue, I think it is. Come across the top with your indigo blue. Nice and wet. Then slowly work your way down your card. And put a bit more paint on in the middle, then come down and then dip and just express yourself, do what you fancy. I'm going to do some dark along the bottom as well, I think. If you're in a hurry, out with a hairdryer, or if you bulk make them, then you can have them all as a production line, and then by the time you come back to the first one, it's probably going to be dry. And now you can see how much nicer that is. Rather than have a solid background, I think it looks nicer with this variegated tone effect. This is 5 inches, so I'm going to go to 2.5 inches at the top and put a little mark on the washi tape there, so I know that's the centre. Then measure again from the inside of the washi tape in 1/2 inch. Now get your washi tape and make a Christmas tree shape going from the top mark to the side mark there, and the same on the other side. And now you haven't got to worry about making a bit of a mess, because as you know, I tend to make a mess. I'm not the neatest person in the world. I'm going to mix myself up some green paint. I like to use a dropper to get the water in. And give it a bit of a mix. Now I'm just going to draw some lines from side to side on this tree at different angles. Try to make sure you've always got enough paint on your brush, because otherwise you'll run out halfway across, which I still do sometimes, and it's very frustrating because you can't get the join to look perfect. Once you've done the basis, make sure you get some of the cross. It just adds to the effect, and try and take a bit more time than I'm doing. And that way then your lines will be even. You can also do this if you want to with a Posca pen. You can do this with acrylic paints. You could even do it with coloured pencils, I suppose. I've never tried it with coloured pencils. Now using the other green, you just add on more lines. Now you decide whether you want to decorate this or not. It will look lovely and classic like that, very minimalist, but I want to put some colour on. Now you could put some red on for berries, you could put lots of different colour dots on for lights, but I'm going to put on some of these Komorebi watercolours, and they're classic metallics. I love using these. And now paint yourself some metallic dots all over the tree, as thickly or as thinly as you like. You decide how many you want to put on. I always like to make sure I've got some near the edges, and it just defines the shape of the tree a little better than if you don't. These are easy and fast to make. You can do them with children. If you're teaching a class and you're thinking, oh no, what cards are we going to make this year? These are perfect. You can use just about any paint you want to. Now off with the washi tape. Now this washi tape hasn't been the best quality in the world. A lot of my washi tapes are quite old now. You can see the stickiness has gone off it. So when you peel off your edges there, look, I love the crisp edge you get. And then take off the outer washi tape and you get the lovely white border, which reminds me of the old ways they used to develop photographs. A white border on it. And there you got yourself a really easy to make tree, and I love the effect on this. It's minimalist, but not too minimalist. Right, let's make another one. For this next tree, I'm not going to stick it on anything. I'm just going to mark out where I want my tree to be. And I've made this one a bit shorter because we're going to put some writing on the bottom of this one. I'm going to use some of this colour, I think. I love having the selection of different metallics. You can do whatever you fancy. You know what they say, a bit of what you fancy does you good. Because this isn't fixed to a backing board, I can turn it and make it a little bit easier on myself. And the same thing again, you want lots of lines. This is the second one I've done because I forgot to turn my camera on.
We're ready for Christmas. Can we do head back home? When the neighbors call, I hit the road. Baby, let it snow. We're ready for Christmas. Why you so far?
Take off your washi tape.
I think I hear them call. So baby, let it snow.
Get yourself a ruler and a pencil. Never write directly on your card. Always make sure you've tried it out first with a bit of pencil. Very, very light line. And then write yourself a nice curly greetings or Happy Christmas, whatever you want to put, and go over it with a Posca pen.
Drive alone in December rain. They play my favorite song. I see a snowflake melt on the deck.
And then when your pen is dry, which mine isn't, you can rub out. So I'll leave rubbing out the rest for the moment. But I'll show you on this one, which is the one I did that I forgot to film. Give it a rub over to take all the pencil away. And this one you can see I used with the darker paint, so I thought it stood out nicer using the lighter paint. But now I can see that something weird has gone on with my Posca pen. Can you see it's like silver with a gold outline around it? And the gold outline is so much darker, so it matches the tree. So, yeah, I definitely prefer the dark gold. Which one do you prefer? For this card, I'm going to use this 440 round brush. You really can use whatever brush you have. It doesn't matter. And first thing I'm going to do is paint some berries. Don't worry if they're not perfectly standard. We don't particularly want them to be uniform. Now I'm going to use this darker green. I have no idea what colour all my paints are. There are proper names. I'm going to just paint some very rough ivy leaves. Very, very rough. And don't panic. I know this really looks awful, but it's going to get better. Much better. I'm going to take my lighter paint and I'm going to make some ivy. So ivy is sort of 3 blobs. blob, 2 blobs, 3 blobs. And dry them off. When you get to this stage, take a fine liner, or you can use a ballpoint pen. I've used one of those before now with great success. And you're going to be doing some outline. So you're on your berries, draw yourself 3 circles around rough. You don't want them to go over the top of each other. You want that roughy look, a very loose look. Like that, and then a little circle for the berry tops. Now you're going to want to go around your ivy leaves. So an ivy leaf is a spine, and then you come 1, 2, 3 to the top, and then 1, 2, 3 to the top. Once more, you've got your spine. I don't go all the way up. We'll do this one. We'll go all the way to the top in case you want to do that. So 1, 2, 3 to the top. 1, 2, 3. Now, I think they look better when they don't quite touch the top, but that's up to you. So let's get the ivy done. Put in the spine with a bit of a curve. I don't like to do it straight. And now you want to go 1, 2, check where the top of the spine would be to there, and then 1, 2, 3, and don't worry, you want these leaves, some of them to be out of the lines. The same with all the other ones. So you want 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you're a bit nervous, you can do this with the pencil first, but I think you lose that spontaneity, you lose the looseness and freeness of the look on the leaves, and you can't really get it wrong because you're not aiming for perfection. You're aiming for sort of whimsical. Right, now the biggest challenge, the ivy leaves. So the ivy leaf has got a spine going up, and one coming out to the side, one coming out to the other side. So you want to draw a bloop and a point on the top, and then a bloop and a point on that spine, and a bloop and a point on that spine, and back in. Once more, put your centre spine, a side spine, a side spine. And then you want a bloop with a point on the top spine, a bloop with a point on that spine, and then a bloop with a point on that spine, and then you can join up. You can see if you'd continued these on, they would have looked like they would have come to the points. You don't want to do, say I'll do a quick one for you here, you don't want to do a bloop and a point like that. I know that's exaggerated. You do need your point to be where the extended spine would be. So let's do that on our card. So I'm going to put in my spine, and little spine, one side and that side. Now we want a bloop with a point and around, a bloop with a point around, and a bloop with a point and around. Centre spine, side spine, bloop with a point, bloop with a point, and bloop with a point. And then, because ivy is a bit of a garland, I'm actually going to draw the lines between these to make it look like they are actually ivy. And this one again, as it's only one leaf, I'm going to come right from the centre with the spine like that, and then out to the side, bloop with a point, bloop with a point, bloop with a point. There's another one, and this one is coming from the centre, but then this one is coming like that. So I'm going to do both spines at the same time, and you bloops with points. Oops, I forgot my side spines. Yeah. I've forgotten to turn my camera on so many times today. Don't even know what I'm doing. And now, just to add an extra bit of pizzazz, draw some wiggles and squiggles. So I'm just going to draw a squiggle that's coming down there over the top of the leaf, and like that. And a squiggle coming out there. You don't need to do these. You may feel that it's enough, but I just think it adds a little bit more fun. Like that. And now the final bit of the fun. If you've been like me, keeping your card closed with some washi tape, take that off. Now, out with some gold paint. And then we're going to splatter, but always splatter on a test piece first in case it goes wrong. You don't want a huge, nasty looking splatter landing on your painting. Now give it a good splatter. And if you're like me, you'll end up with paint splattered in your glasses, in your hair, over your worktop. So it does take a while to clean up afterwards. And I think these splatters just bring everything together. If you hadn't put those splatters on, it wouldn't look as nice. And look at that. It looks like something you would buy in a high-end card shop that some designer has done. And it was really simple. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I think that's one of my favourites. Now this is a nice, easy tree that you can make. And you don't even need to glue your cardstock to anything because you're not putting a lot of paint on, but you're putting a lot of impact into a card. So get yourself some water and mix yourself up a nice lot of paint. I'm not very organised today. I've got everything everywhere. When you've got a nice lot of paint on your brush, you want to draw a rough Christmas tree. And I mean a rough Christmas tree in zigzags. So leaving room for a star at the top. And I add another bit of paint and come back in there. You can put a few sticky out bits if you want to. And now dry it. So you got that. That's not much of a card, is it? Keep waiting. Take your fine liner or your biro, and now you want to draw over the top a rough Christmas tree shape. Like that. If you miss any bits out and you want to put some in, just draw a big bit of Christmas tree, but make sure you join them up like that. So you've got you don't want any lines coming to an end in the tree. Right, so now I'm going to paint a star at the top of my tree. This hasn't got to be perfect. The whole of the tree isn't perfect, so don't worry, because I'm not very good at drawing stars, as you can tell. So there we got my star. And now I'm going to do some circle dots that look a bit like baubles. Be careful that you haven't got any paint on your hands. I'm terrible for getting paint on this bit of my hand off my palette and then rubbing it on my painting. I'm just going to paint a couple of circular baubles, not too many. And now out with the gold paint again. Check your splatter and splatter it. Just add the magic. And on this one I'm going to add some silver splatters too. So you've got glamour because you've got the gold and the silver, but you've also got the whimsy loose look. Again, you would pay a fortune for this in a high-end shop. And it's that easy to make that quick. The longest part of this is the drying time. This is another pleasantly relaxing card to make. Outline your Christmas tree shape with some washi tape. And I'm also leaving a bit off the bottom because I just think it looks nicer when you're doing this. Now I'm going to take my gold paint. And this is so easy, but it's such fun to make and so effective. I'm going to draw some big baubles first. These are the biggest ones that I'm going to have, and then you shrink down. If you start with small ones, it's very difficult then to figure out the layout of these baubles. So decide how big you want your biggest baubles to be, and you can put bigger ones in if you want to. They can be however you want them to be. I try to do these as accurately circular as possible. Make sure you have some big ones near the edge. It helps to define the shape of the tree. And now you can come in with slightly smaller ones. Make the card work for you. Do whatever you think is right. Interpret everything you do when you're making Christmas cards. If something doesn't suit your methods or your tastes, then make something different. Change the colour, change the shapes, change the size. Now fill in all the gaps, but make sure your points have got something in, because that is the outer extremity of the tree. And if there are no dots in those little points, then you lose the outer edge of your tree. So on the top point and on the two bottom points, make sure you've got a dot. If you wanted to, you could just mask out the shape of the Christmas tree and splatter it. That's a fun look too, but I wanted to do this one because I wanted to explain to you just how relaxing this is. And plus, if you've got somebody, if you're making this for somebody you know and love, then you may want to put a little bit more thought, and some people like to use them as prayer cards. As you're painting the card for your friend or your loved one, whatever, you can pray for them, or if you don't pray, if you just meditate for people, and it makes it into a much more fulfilling process because you feel like you're doing a lot more good than just painting somebody a card. It keeps them on your mind, which is a lovely thing to do, and lift it up from being just another Christmas card to something with a real meaning to it. You may decide to do lots of different colours. You could do that. You can keep it to all one colour but just change the colour up. You could make red or green, whatever you fancy. You could even, if you really want your children to help and you can't face having a mess because you just haven't got time to clean before guests arrive or something like that, you can just get out lots of circular stickers and they could cover them in circular stickers. And now for the big reveal. I love taking washi tape off. And I love when you do this, your eyes almost interpret a drawn line. It really does look like this has got a crisp edge. And other than the messy fingerprint, it looks really good. I love it, and it's quite sparkly, very glamorous. You could do it in silver and gold as well. That would add an extra dimension. I'm into simplicity this year when it comes to my Christmas cards. I don't know why when it comes to my glamorous ones, but I'm really into whimsy too. So that's the road I'm going down. Simply glamorous or whimsy. Completely opposite ends of the scale. So now for a bonus card. I didn't want to include this in the number because you do need to have a crocodile or something with a long reach to make holes with, or some punches with a long reach. So in case you didn't have, I thought I'd make this the bonus. I've got my piece of card, and I've also cut a piece of paper that, if you see, is a tiny bit narrower than the card. This is going to be inside the card. I'm going to work on the front outside piece, so I'm going to tape this to my little piece of board. And I'm just going to add a bit of water, again not too much because it's not a good quality watercolour paper. And then I'm going to take some colours, and I'm going to go for reds, just for complete change. I'm just going to run some red over the paper and then add a different red too. Try and get them to just merge all around the place. Now add a colour on the top because I just want a bit of a contrasting look, like that. That's fine. You're not going to be seeing a lot of this. I just want some bright colours. Now you can use a piece of craft paper that's already decorated. That would be quicker, it would be easier, and would probably be brighter. But I wanted to keep this to watercolour, so I've made a little watercolour background. And it doesn't matter how this looks at all. While that's drying, with my card, and I'm going to put on a Christmas tree outline with my washi tape. On this one, you've got a smaller hole maker, and I'm just going to punch holes all the way around inside that washi tape. It's just to show me where to go. It's a bit of a guide, really. And that's the size hole we're looking for. Do these randomly, but just make sure you've got the outline of the tree marked well by putting a lot along the edge. If you use a bigger hole, you'll be able to see more of the colour shining through. It's really the only difference it'll make. And now off with the washi tape. Another option you've got is to paint the card dark and then put a lighter sheet of paper or even white inside. I decided to go for the lighter look because I tend to like lighter things. Now out with some glue stick. Put it along the back long edge of the piece of paper. You don't need to put it all over. And then just slightly in, don't put it too tight, otherwise your card won't shut properly. Pop that into place. And then when your card is shut, you've got quite a pretty pattern. Now, it probably would look bigger if I made larger holes. Should we try? Go on then. It was just a crazy idea that came to me. When I was painting the other things, I thought, I wonder what else I could do. So I decided to give it a go, and it hasn't been my greatest moment. But let's see what it would look like if I put a bigger hole in. See how much more you'll see. Whew, that took forever. Oh, look at that. My big bite doesn't like this thick cardstock. Interesting. It'll handle very solid things, but I think this is a bit too papery for it. They look more like snowflakes now. That's my excuse. I wanted a snowflake effect. This is a very simple card, very easy to do, but you can use any piece of paper. For example, you've got this tatty old piece of paper here. If I'd used this, then you would have seen yellow. So there are a few lessons that I can learn from this. One, not to use this paper if I'm using my big bite. Two, make a prototype first to check that the paper will work with my big bite. And also, although I wanted a delicate effect, the bigger the hole, the better. So there we go, I've learned something. So there we go, my cards, 5 plus the dubious bonus card. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, don't forget to subscribe before you go, because we've got lots more crafts coming your way. Christmas is getting so close now, but we've still got plenty we can do before then. I'll see you all next time, but until then, don't forget, happy crafting and have fun. Bye!